With the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, we are continuing to see the Tigray Defense Forces continue its security operation in the Afar region. What we are saying right now is that many of the Afar regional militia units that were positioned from Brahel down to Abala have now either been destroyed and severely disrupted by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And it would appear that we are, as we speak, are really seeing the collapse of the Afar regional military forces, and we are not seeing so much again of the B loyalist formation coming to the assistance. Of the Afar region right now, they are again dealing with a very heavy insurgency inside of the Oromo region. Oromo region, and it is not going well for the loyalists to in those areas, and we talk about that again very shortly. But right now the Tigray Defense Force are making very impressive advances, and on the ground inside of the Afar region is that many of these Afar regional militia forces are now fleeing in mass away from the Tigray Defense Forces again after sustaining huge amounts of casualties, especially within the vicinity of Brahel and Abala, and there is been talk of a possible continued advance by the Tigray Defense Forces toward the border with Eriteria. And I talk about that issue in a separate video. I do not believe that would be a move by the Tigray Defense Force to extend itself towards the border of Eriteria. Again, very difficult to supply the kind of forces that would be needed. In fact, they were looking to cross the border or even move all the way to Samra and look to possibly sever the Djibouti road into the former state of Ethiopia. So again, as the Ukraine Defense Forces penetrate deeper into the Afar region, it would become more and more difficult to sustain those forces. So why are we seeing the sources or more success of the latest operation by the Tigray Defense Forces now as opposite to earlier when we were looking at multiple front war or conflict where the Tigray Defense Force had penetrated deeply into the Harar region and at the same time started operation against the Afar region, and some of the same issues that were going on previously with some of these of our regional militias and even Ethiopian National Defense Force units at the time that were deployed in the Afar region. Well, the short answer is that most of the combat power of the Tigray Defense Forces was being projected in the Amhara region, and again, if we recall, very large amounts of territory were seized by the Tigray Defense Force to include Sikota, Lalibela, Veldia, Kobo, Mersa, Desi, Conclusion, Kemsi, Shiarobit, and all the way down to Debra Center to some of the most elite and professional combat units of the Tigray Defense Force were actually deployed in the Amhara region. And many of those forces have since been withdrawn to back to the region, and with this recent operation we are seeing a different, obviously different leadership being instituted in this newest security operation in the Afar region, and we are also seeing different combat units as well. So some of these combat units are fairly experienced and actually have the Tigray Special Forces operating with team as well. This is not a huge forces that is coming into the Afar region, but is probably a more better trained and in better equipped forces that is no longer being seen as more or less as a sideshow, as the main body of the Tigray Defense Force were towards the Amhara region. So with the pull out of those forces from the Amhara region, the Tigray Defense Force is able to really focus on its operation along the border with the Afar region. Now at the same time, we continue to see the Tigray Defense Force deploying out west towards the western Tigray region with the possible attempt of eventually reconquering the western Tigray region and evicting those forces of both the Eritrean army, some elements of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, and obviously huge amount of Amhara regional militia units including Fanu is deployed in western Tigray. But again, right now we continue to hear reports that a lot of these regional militia units of the Afar regional militias are now fleeing to the east and southeast from the advancing Tigray defense forces in this latest operation, and again quite a bit different operation now as opposite to when the Tigray Defense Force was also deployed in the Amhara region. As will now, with that being said, a lot of the Afar are under the very concerned that they are not being fortified with elements to the Ethiopian National Defense Force. And the reason for that is the Ethiopian National Defense Force really has its hands full in the Oromia region. And I am just going to go back down here to the Oromia region. So over the course of the last week, we have seen really stunning setbacks for the Ethiopian National Defense Force or the B Loyalist formation and the federal police forces, the federal regional police forces that to operate in the Oromia region, to operate in the Oromia region. Uh, Oromo Liberation Army and we have received now multiple reports over the course of the last week, 2 weeks of cured literally dozen of ambushes that we have taken places. One ambush in particular in western Oromia was a force of around 60 Ethiopian National Defense Force federal police unit that was ambushed and utterly destroyed. The entire unity was completely destroyed, and that was just under a company seized unit that was ambushed and annihilated by the OLA. And then compounding that, there have been a series of many other ambushes and attacks as well around the Romeo region. In one instance, senior leadership of the Prosperity Party was attempting a visit in the Oromia region, actually being escorted by units of the Republican Guard. And again, we talked about how we are starting to see the increase in Republican Guard units in the former state of Ethiopia, kind of maintain that grip on power for and he is close to loyalist, and the this forces operating in the Oromia region was actually being escorted by units of the Republican Guard, and that unit in fact was attacked itself as well and suffered casualties from the reports that we are receiving. But again, very tension situation right now in the Oromia region. So here this is the latest update about it. For more latest report, please subscribe my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.